Mr. Fraser, why did you decide to come back into the race?
Look, this is an extremely important election. Over the course of the last few months, having a little more time at home than I've grown accustomed to, watching the conversations play out in my community, not just what we see on the news, but about the impact of the potential trade war on jobs in my own community, made me feel like I wanted to do something to serve. I had made peace with the idea that there was going to be life after politics and figuring out what capacity that would be in. Having a couple of conversations with my neighbors who work at places like Michelin Tire in Grant and Pictou County, who sell 70% of their tires to the American market, put at risk the well-being of families who live in my community. I received a call yesterday from the Prime Minister asking if I would reconsider and step up to help out during this unprecedented economic challenge. And the bulk of our conversation turned quickly to whether we could build in protections for a young parent to actually do the job effectively without giving up on the idea that you should be there for your kids. I have assurances and comfort that I'm going to be able to be closer to home than I was over the course of the past few years and still make a contribution to the country that we all love. And I think this is a time for people to step up and make a difference. So here I am once again reoffering as the candidate for Central
The Liberal chance.
No, go ahead. I'll do it.
The Liberal chances of getting re-elected have vastly improved. That factored into your decision as well?
You know what? It's I don't know if you're familiar with the history of this riding. This was historically one of the most conservative ridings in certainly Nova Scotia, perhaps Canada. When Brian Mulroney, who became a friend of mine before he passed away, wanted a safe seat when he had become the leader of the Conservatives in the 80s, he actually got Elmer MacKay to step aside so he could be the MP here. Over the course of my life, it's been a Liberal once before I was elected in 2015. And if you want to go back, I think the guy who held it before her for us was born in 1870 or something like that. This is not a Liberal stronghold. You can take nothing for granted. When I first put my name on the ballot, we were polling in a distant third. My motivations, even when I made the decision to leave in December, I think I even said in my remarks at the time that I want to run in the next election, I want to win, but I was concerned about being apart from my family for the 4 years that may follow. Having had the conversation and been given very real assurances that I could work with the Prime Minister to develop an arrangement that allows me to be closer to home than I was previously is the kind of thing that makes this possible for me. So more about the opportunity to serve with the ability to be close to home, combining for it far greater than any political calculation.
Parce que une personne cynique pourrait dire. Oui, une personne cynique, like a cynical person, pourrait dire vous revenez parce que les sondages sont bons. Parce qu'il y a 2 mois, les libéraux perdaient. Là, les sondages sont bons. C'est pour ça que vous êtes de retour. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez à ça?
Et après, disons, c'est normal d'avoir des engagements avec des cyniques. Mais en réalité, la décision est pour moi et ma famille. C'est une bonne décision pour ajouter l'effort de le gouvernement du Canada pour répondre de les États-Unis. Juste en anglais, c'est OK?
Mais juste, est-ce que c'est lié au sondage?
Oui.
Is it linked to the polls? Est-ce que c'est lié au sondage?
Non. Je n'ai pas des sondages pour ma circonscription. Il n'y a pas un sondage local. Mais selon moi, c'est important pour des personnes qui veulent contribuer de cet effort. C'est très important maintenant de lever pour contribuer. C'est très important pour moi de protéger l'intérêt de ma famille. C'est la priorité numéro 1. Mais je pense que j'ai une opportunité pour continuer mon travail dans la circonscription et contribuer des expertises et d'expériences pour le gouvernement et en même temps rester à ma maison avec ma famille plus de temps entre les expériences dernières.
What kind of promises did the Prime Minister make?
Est-ce que vous aimeriez redevenir ministre? Would you like to become again a minister?
Ce n'est pas une décision pour moi, hein. C'est une décision pour le Premier ministre. Il n'y a pas une offre pour rejoindre le cabinet. C'est une opportunité pour être le député pour la circonscription de Nova Centre. C'est ma maison. C'est très important pour moi de représenter les personnes qui habitaient dans cette communauté. Mais si le Premier ministre fait une offre pour rejoindre le cabinet, c'est possible, mais ce n'est pas possible pour moi d'être le ministre dans les portefeuilles internationaux, par exemple. C'est très important pour moi d'archiver. J'ai l'habilité pour défendre l'intérêt de ma famille. C'est une priorité. Ce n'est pas négociable pour moi. J'ai fait une décision pour cette raison. Les raisons ne changent pas, mais l'environnement, je pense que l'environnement a changé et c'est possible pour moi de continuer.
What does the Prime Minister promise you on work-life balance?
Are you in a sense like bigfooting someone else would want to run here in this ride?
Look, I made no effort to... Oh, sorry, bad habit. Media training 101, right? No, I didn't make this decision with an effort in mind to have an impact on anyone else. The Prime Minister of Canada called me yesterday and asked me to serve my country. I will never refuse that phone call. But I had a lot of very serious questions that I wanted very clear answers to, and I was given a lot of comfort that it was going to be made possible and more achievable for me to actually both spend time with my family and contribute to a very, very important initiative to protect the interests of my community and my country. I had an opportunity to meet with a gentleman who had recently become the candidate. He is a top-class person. He has demonstrated character and grace, and I hope he remains engaged and interested in politics in our community and our country, and I look forward to continuing to engage with him, and he will be supporting our campaign in the community as well.
What kind of promises on work?
Look, I think the riding's never a sure bet, with or without a candidate who's been elected multiple times. This is a long-standing Conservative stronghold, and we've been able to do the impossible, according to my dad, back in 2015, 3 times in a row. He told me, you might actually pull this off with the momentum we had in 2015. Don't count on a 10 or 15-year career in politics for Liberals. It doesn't happen in this part of the world. But the reality that we're experiencing now is people are waking up not just to their traditional voting behavior, but the real threat that is facing Canada. They are having an honest conversation with themselves about who is better to lead our country through these turbulent economic times. And on the one hand, they have Mark Carney, who's one of the most respected voices on economic issues globally. And on the other hand, they have Pierre Poilievre, who doesn't really have work experience outside of being a politician for his entire career. The choice is pretty clear in my opinion, but I think what's very healthy in our democracy is people are in large part not just voting the way their grandparents did, but instead are actually looking at the interests of their community and their country, and that's what democracy is all about.
What kind of promises did the Prime Minister make? Like, what specifics did he give you that you'd be able to do a work-life balance? Because Parliament's still in Ottawa.
It is still in Ottawa, and we discussed... oh, yeah, sorry, I'm terrible at this. I'm out of practice. The Prime Minister and I discussed the ability to use virtual participation to ensure that I wouldn't be asked during constituency weeks to travel the same way I had been traveling before. I spent somewhere in the ballpark of 140 nights last year in a hotel room. That is not a healthy environment for a young person trying to raise kids to actually spend their time traveling around the country that way or around the world that way. We had a lengthy discussion about my needs to be a father and a husband, number one, and to serve in that context. I have comfort, given the conversation that we had, that that's going to be made possible, and it's something, frankly, that we need to tackle, because there are a lot of good people, disproportionately young women who are raising kids, who choose not to contribute their immense talents to politics because they simply can't make it work for family considerations. That's not just a loss for the person who doesn't get to run, that's a loss for the entire country when we're missing out on that extraordinary talent. So these conversations I've had, I take him as an earnest and trustworthy man. That's why I'm supporting him. It's why I supported him during the leadership, and I believe that we're going to be able to make it work and hopefully set an example and make some changes so we can recruit more young parents across this country to consider running for office and contributing their talents to the betterment of our country.
Did the party have a hard time finding a candidate for the riding?
Well, we had a candidate who had completed the paperwork. There was a number of people who had been interested. Of course, the selection came up a lot quicker than others potentially have in the past. So only in the sense that there was a change in leadership that was fairly abrupt and a quick rush to move into an election season. So in that way, it was perhaps more challenging than if you had a predictable 4-year timeline where everyone knew it would become open. But there were good people who were interested in potentially running in this riding.
Can we ask why what do you think about Poilievre reversing on Pharmacare? He says he's willing to keep Pharmacare, keep dental care.
Sorry, what's the...
Poilievre says he's willing to keep Pharmacare, keep the dental care if he gets in?
So I'm learning this in real time, and it's unbelievable to me that someone who has railed against these programs as wasteful, now that he realizes his position is unpopular, he shifts his principles altogether. You don't like my principles, look at my other principles, is his essential approach here. This is the guy who has been talking about tearing down the protections that we're going to deliver free contraception to Canadian women and free medicine and devices to people living with diabetes. This is somebody who has railed against investments in dental care that is reaching people in our communities. He's been promising to tear it apart, and he actually pretended it didn't even exist. This is not the hallmark of an honest campaign or a position that's honestly held. He's simply realizing that his beliefs are unpopular with Canadians, so he's changing his beliefs at a politically opportunistic time. Okay, I'm getting the signal here, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.